Welcome. Today we're here to talk about networking with RTX64. So to go over just the architectural overview for those of you who are new to RTX64, again, we transform Windows, and in this case, Windows 64-bit into a real-time operating system. So we do that by dedicating X number of processors for Windows processing, and then we dedicate the remaining processors or cores for real-time processing under RTX. So again, we take advantage of a multi-core platform, transforming Windows into a real-time operating system. Today we're here to talk about real-time networking, so in particular the TCP/IP stack that works inside of RTX, and we're going to go through a couple steps in how to configure it and how to set it up and how to test it and make sure it works. So there's three major components or three major sections that we're going to go over. The first thing we're going to do is converting a network interface card from Windows to that of RTX64 control. Okay? Next, we're going to configure the real-time TCP/IP stack inside of RTX64. And then finally, we're going to test the stack to make sure everything works properly. In this first section, we're going to talk about how to convert a network interface card, or NIC, from Windows control over into RTX64. In order to do that, we're going to use, again, the RTX64 config function, and there's a number of different options you can use with this function. But today, in this section, we're going to talk about /device and /RTX64. So /device, we're going to retrieve the device information for this network interface card, and using this /2RTX command, we're going to convert the NIC from Windows control to that of RTX64. So let's go ahead and get started. In order to convert a network interface card to be used under RTX64, the first thing we want to do is go to the device manager. So there's a number of different ways to go there. I'm going to go to the start menu and go to my computer and go to manage. And here this window pops up. We're then going to want to go to device manager, and here are all the different devices inside of my machine. So if you look here under network adapters, you'll see I have two network interface cards, or two NICs. The first one being the Intel Gigabit CT card and the Realtek card, and the Gigabit CT card is the one supported by RTX64, so that's the one we want. So in order to do this next step, we're going to want to get as far as the device ID. So there's an instance ID for this on the PCI bus that we're going to want to retrieve. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and minimize this. We're going to want to open up a command prompt here, and we're going to do the RTX64 config command, and we're going to want to do /device. So if we do this just by itself, it's a lot of information that's going to come out. So this is kind of overwhelming. So what we're going to do to help parse this and get the data we want out of it is we're going to enter in RTX64 config /device, and we're going to pipe it somewhere. So we're going to say C / we're going to go to the temp directory / and we'll just call it devices. Okay? .txt, and so we hit return, and so it actually wrote the file. So if we go under Explorer here, we can go to C, temp, and here's the file, devices. And I know what I'm looking for, right? We just saw it in the device manager. So we're looking for a Gigabit, and it's a CT card. So there I did a quick search, and here you'll see, here it is. I know there's a lot of data. It's kind of cryptic, so please bear with me. I'll walk you through it carefully. So here's the device instance ID. So this is what we want. So we literally want to just highlight it, and we're going to copy this and close it. Let me close this too. And we're going to come back to our command prompt here. Let me make this a little easier to see. And we're going to go ahead and do the RTX64 config /device. And we're going to do quote, and now we're going to paste in that instance ID and close the quotes, and we're going to add one more command called /RTX64. So if I hit this now, hit return, you'll see in a moment it's actually converted the device over. So this is the confirmation that you're looking for. Okay, and if you go ahead and minimize this for a second, we go back to our device manager. You can see what happened. So before, the Gigabit CT card was under Windows network adapters. Now you see it moved under RTX. So we know the conversion was successful. Now that we have a network interface card converted to RTX64, we're now going to configure the real-time TCP/IP stack to use this NIC. In order to do that, we're going to use the RTX64 config command, and we're going to use the interface and the /TCP/IP options. The /interface will help us to set up what driver we're going to use with this NIC. the static IP address as well as the net mask, and the location of this NIC. If you have multiple NICs in the system, this helps to identify which card you're talking to. And then finally, we'll play with the TCP/IP general options, and in particular, we're going to turn on verbose mode so that we get a little more information when the stack is coming up, just for debugging purposes. So let's get started. Now that we have a network interface card configured for RTX64, the next thing we're going to want to do is set up the TCP/IP stack to talk with this NIC. So what we'll want to do is go to a command line, and we're going to use the RTX64 config, and then we'll do a /interface. So if I just hit return, it'll go right back to the prompt, and this just means there are no interfaces that have been configured. So what we want to do is create one. So if you do, again, the /interface option, and this time we're going to do 0, and 0 means the first instance of the stack. So right now RTX64 only supports one instance, so we're always going to use 0 for now. In the future we might support multiple instances, but again, for now just use 0. And then we're going to put the name of the stack. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to do RTND0. Okay, and then we're going to do a /create. And then next, remember we're using a Intel Gigabit CT card, so that actually uses the driver RTE1000. So this is the driver for the Intel cards, or a large majority of them, and this comes with, again, RTX64, and it comes from Innova 0. And then finally, we're going to put the IP address information. So remember, this can be whatever you want, but in my case, it's 192.168.123.170, and then the subnet, 255.255.255.0. And then we'll press enter. And now you can see we actually have a configuration now. We have an interface set up. And here you can see the name of the driver. Here's the static IP address. And here's the net mask, and there's a lot of other default parameters. To be honest, most of these defaults are actually okay for most applications out there. But what I'm going to tell you to do, recommend, is to actually enter in a location field. So when you only have one NIC in the system, this isn't a big deal. But if you have, say, a multi-port network interface card or multiple NICs of the same brand, you might need to put in this location field. And how you do that is you're going to go back to your device manager. You're going to right click on the network interface card under RTX and click properties, and you see here's the location field. It's 400, so it's bus, device, and function. So this 400, we're going to go ahead and enter that in. And so we're going to do /interface. Again, we're going to use 0, the first instance. We're going to talk to RTND0, that instance of the stack. Okay, and then we're going to do /location, and then 4:0:0. Oops. And press return. And now you can see it's taken, and just to verify, we're just going to type /interface again, and you can see it did change that parameter. So location is 400. Okay, and now we're ready to go ahead and start the stack. But before we do that, I want to do one other thing, and I'm going to do RTX64 config, and this time /TCP/IP. So what this is these are just some of the high-level features of the real-time stack for RTX. For example, the memory of the stack, maximum amount of sockets. So most of these are usually fine for a majority applications. So one thing I do want to change is this setting right here, /verbose. Right now it's set to false. So I just want to get a little more information as the stack is operating. So I'm going to go ahead and do RTX64 config /TCP/IP. I want to talk to the first instance of the stack, and then I'm going to do /verbose. And you can see right now it's false. We're going to go ahead and set it as true and hit return, and now it's actually set. So, and just to verify, you can just type /TCP/IP, and you can see again, just to reiterate, it's changed there. Alright, so now we're all set, and we're going to go ahead and start the stack. And it's always good to get the status just to make sure everything is kind of where it should be. So if you type in /status, you can see it is halted. I just brought up my machine, and so now we'll actually start the stack. And now you can see here the output in the RTX server window that the TCP/IP stack, it started in verbose mode,
and we successfully configured an IPv4 address of 192.168.123.170. So everything's now working.
Now that we have the NIC card converted over into RTX64 and we've configured the real-time TCP/IP stack, we're just going to want to run a final test just to make sure everything is working properly. So to do that, we're going to do a function or run a function called RTSS ping. So this is the RTX equivalent of ping inside of Windows. So I'm sure you're very familiar with how you run ping in the Windows environment. Well, the RTX equivalent is RTSS ping, and we're going to run that function by calling RTSS run, which is the prefix that you need to have whenever you run any RTX executable at a command line. So here is what we're going to enter at our command prompt: RTSS run, RTSS ping, and then the IP address that we know is valid. And so let's go ahead and do that and see what happens.
Now, just to make sure everything's working properly, we're going to do a simple ping to make sure that the real-time stack is communicating correctly across the network interface card. So here we have an RTX server, and we have a command prompt, and right now it's pointing to program files /interval0/RTX64/bin. So this is the bin folder inside of the runtime, and so we're going to do an RTSS run, and this is the prefix that you'll enter whenever you want to run an RTX application at a command line. And we're going to talk to RTSS ping, so that's the RTX equivalent of ping, okay? And then we'll type 192.168.123.100. So this can be whatever is valid on your network. So this is an address on my network that I know works, and I click return. And here in the RTX server window, you can see that ping is working. We're communicating against that address, and everything's working properly. So we have RTSS ping running on top of our real-time stack in RTX, and we're working on the real-time NIC that we converted from Windows to that of RTX.
In the last couple minutes, we converted a NIC from Windows to that of RTX64. We configured the real-time TCP/IP stack, and we even ran a simple ping test to make sure everything was working properly. Hopefully this got you up and running very quickly to do networking under RTX64. So thanks for spending the time with us. Also, here's my contact information. Please provide us with any feedback on this video or any videos that you'd like to see from us. We're more than happy to hear from you, and we look forward to your comments. So thanks again for your time, and see you next time.